Okay, thank you everybody. I'm Håvard Nygård. I'm usually at the Peace Research Institute in Oslo, and here I am representing the International Area Studies Review. Before I start, I would like to thank Director Chung and President Kim for inviting me and for showing me the Korean hospitality I've been growing more and more accustomed to over the years. So, I'll just jump into this. So the International Area Studies Review is an international journal, a very much an international journal. It's owned by HUFS, it's edited primarily at PRIO, and it's published by Sage in London. We have a fairly comfortable annual operating budget. Presently, ISR is distributed to over 5,000 libraries worldwide as part of the core Sage package that Sage sells to libraries. That's, of course, one of the great advantages of being published by an international publisher, is that you get parts of these bundles of libraries. We expect this figure of 5,000 libraries to double in the next few years as libraries renew their deals with Sage, and then the ISR automatically gets added to their lists of journal, pretty much whether they like it or not. ISR is a methodologically rigorous journal. We publish innovative research that is either statistical, theoretical, or ethnographic and historical. Our research, or the research we publish, mostly is broadly empirical. So ISR does not publish very much cultural studies or folklore studies, and we don't publish pure business case studies for the most part. ISR is unique in that it's the only global area studies journal in the world, right? So most area studies journals tend to focus on one particular region, but ISR is a global area studies review, meaning that every region in general is relevant, and it also makes it possible for ISR to publish articles that look at comparisons between different journals. We also publish in-depth studies of single countries, as long as the author can show how understanding the dynamics and the processes in that single country is important and relevant for understanding the region hosting that country. In general. So ISR, we say that ISR is a multidisciplinary journal, and when we say multidisciplinary and not interdisciplinary, that is a very conscious choice. So every article published by ISR has to be rooted and meet the highest standards of a particular discipline. Within a given issue, however, you'll see papers from various journals. So generally, we do not publish articles that mix and match disciplines within a given article, since in our very limited experience, that leads to a lowering of standards instead of an increase in standards. Okay. The journal is peer-reviewed, of course, double-blind peer-reviewed. I think I covered all this, actually. I got confused with my going ups and downs, so I'll step back and cover stuff that I skipped over in the confusion of the new remote. So ISR mostly publishes articles from economics, political science, sociology, and geography. That partly is a reflection of the composition of the editorial board. So our editorial board, which is very global in scope, mostly consists of leading scholars in political science, sociology, geography, and economics. We've also published quite a lot of history in the past, but at the moment we don't have any historians, unfortunately, on the editorial board, and that is one of our aims for the future that I'll return to, is to get more, especially historians, onto the editorial board. Presently, We've published papers from every region. We've published papers from authors based in every region of the world, but the bulk of our publications, to be fair, still primarily comes from Europe, the US, and Korea. A goal, of course, is to even out the differences, and especially to attract more high-quality publications or submissions from regions that are not often represented in the region. Okay, so to get into some of the specifics of IASR. So about 40% of the papers IASR publishes are statistical or quantitative in nature. About 60% are qualitative or case study oriented in nature. There's been a clear norm has developed, especially within political science and economics, that papers published that use statistical methods should adhere to a replication policy, meaning that if you publish a paper that relies on statistical data for the results and for the conclusions, then the data used by the authors should be made readily available to the general public. That policy has been spearheaded partly by Journal of Peace Research, another journal hosted by PRIO, and IASR very much adheres to that policy. We have, however, tried to move past this, and IASR has been in the forefront of also developing standards for replication policies for qualitative journals. So in the inaugural issue by IASR published by SAGE, we published a paper by Professor Stein Tønsson, where he lays out a set of guidelines for how historians should make their work more easily replicated through the use of what he calls annotated bibliographies and hyperlinking of documents. And IASR, in close collaboration with SAGE, is now in a position to provide authors with tools to make their historically oriented or case study oriented journals follow these replication policies, so that qualitative papers can adhere to the same robust replication policies that we think are extremely important for the accumulation of knowledge as quantitative papers have in the past. The bulk, probably around 80% of the papers published by IASR are regular scientific articles, so they have to be scientifically innovative and methodologically rigorous. In addition, IASR also publishes data features and review essays. Now, data features are papers that present basically a new data set. That means when you publish a data feature, we don't put that much emphasis on the theoretical innovativeness of the paper, but put more of an emphasis on the potential usage of that new data set. Data features are among our most downloaded papers, and we hope in the future that they also will be among our most cited papers. In addition, we publish review essays, and in contrast to most other journals, IASR does not publish book reviews. Instead, we publish thematic reviews. So we ask authors not to review a book or a set of books, but to review a sub-discipline or thematic issues. So in the past, we've published review essays on the link between regime type and economic growth, on horizontal inequalities and conflict, and on religion and democratization, for example. So these are broad thematic reviews. Currently, the review essays actually are our most downloaded essays, or downloaded articles, probably to a large extent because, or illustrating that there's not a lot of outlets among journals for these types of thematic reviews. For example, in the disciplines of political science and economics, the only other journal that actually does these types of thematic reviews are the annual review journals, so the annual review of economics, the annual review sociology and the annual review of critical science, then we think there absolutely is a need for these broader types of reviews, and they are, of course, especially useful for students and younger scholars who are moving into a field and need to get up to speed on what is cutting edge in that field quickly. Okay, so ISR publishes 4 issues every year. One of those 4 issues every year is set aside as a special issue. The special issue usually is edited by a guest editor. So what we've tried to, since ISR still is a fairly young journal, meaning that means we don't have a large, long backlog. We can use the special issues to respond more rapidly to things that are of current interest. So we've published the 3 preceding years. We've published special issues on soft power and sports diplomacy, on the war in Afghanistan, and on political demography. All of these special issues have received quite a lot of attention at international conferences, and we've used panels at international conferences to bring together scholars to start working on such special issues, and through that also to spread the word more broadly to scholars that wouldn't usually be aware of ISR. And for us, at least, it seems like that is actually a pretty good strategy for getting people interested and invested in the journal. Next year's special issue is going to be on mega cities, which is an important subject from the angles of several disciplines, showing that you can have a special issue that features several disciplines, but where each article still has to adhere to the strict standards of a specific. Okay, to wrap up, some ISR milestones. So ISR was inaugurated in 1997. PRIO and my involvement with the journal started in 2011 when Scott Gates, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, took over as the editor-in-chief. Sage published the first issue of ISR in 2012. ISR is presently listed by the Norwegian Social Science Data Service and by Scopus, and we are applying, or Sage is handling in the application process and will soon submit the application to be listed in SSCI. So I'll buy James Tester beer later today and see if that works, maybe not. And of course, a lot of the work at ISR at the moment is geared towards making sure that we publish work that is robustly high quality, so that it generates the necessary citations to warrant inclusion in the Web of Science and SSCI. So, what's the immediate future aims of ISR? So, of course, the immediate future aim is to finish work on next year's special issue on mega cities, which would further strengthen the quality of the journal, and to make sure that we can further increase the bar at which we accept papers. At present, the refusal rate at ISR is around 50%, meaning that we already have a pretty decent quality standard, to the extent that the refusal rate is indicative of the quality standard, and we hope to increase that in the future. We also hope to broaden the regions from which we receive the bulk of submissions without having to lower the standards for what we accept. And of course, we hope that, as in the past, where ISR very much has been a vehicle for strengthening and deepening relations between HUFS and PRIO, and that ISR in the future can continue to serve that role and to consolidate and deepen it further what has so far been an extremely fruitful relationship between PRIO and HUFS. And with that, I think I'll say